And if I deliver up my body to be burned but have not love, I gain nothing.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Amlio podcast. My name is Josh, and I am here with my lovely wife, Rebecca.
Hello, everyone.
And it is the week before, well, actually, the Friday before Valentine's Day. So we just want to give a little love, show a little love to all our listeners and supporters, and wish you guys a very happy Valentine's Day. Whether you're single, whether you have a special someone, we hope that it is a great and amazing day for you. And we thought, what better way to do a Valentine's episode than with a very wholesome anime? And we'll get to that here in just a moment. Whenever I think of Valentine's Day, I always think of back to like grade school, where every day it was always, not every day. It was every year around this time. So, okay, now make sure that you bring all your little cardboard cards and you build a bag or a box. And it was always like out of obligation. Like, I don't think there was like any kid that got like 0 Valentines.
Well, you were required to bring a Valentine for everyone.
Yes, it was all in part of the inclusion.
Mm-hmm. Which is good. I mean, honestly, I can see how if they didn't do that, I probably wouldn't have gotten any.
Oh, don't say it so short. I would give you a Valentine.
Well, yeah, knowing me now, you would. But yeah, I don't know. I always saw myself as other in school. I didn't really have too many friends.
I know you got friends.
I do have friends now, friends who love me very much,
That's
and
right.
a husband who loves me, and a dog. So it's better.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Rebecca and I actually met a couple days after Valentine's Day.
It was the day after Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah. Is there? Yeah, I think it was the day. Yeah, the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
2016.
Yep. And then at a coffee shop, and well, the rest is history, folks. I remember our first Valentine's Day because now Josh doesn't. Mom didn't raise no wimp. I went all the 9 yards.
You
for
did.
this lady. I remember.
Was that Valentine's Day?
It was our first official Valentine's Day. We went to the melting pot in Nashville.
Yeah, that was where you literally rolled out a red carpet to the car. Is that right? Or is that a different occasion?
No, that was for a teeth hack
that
we're going to.
Okay.
Like I know you got like a blowout for your hair.
I did, yeah.
On the Valentine's Day date. So yeah.
Okay. I do remember melting pot. That was good.
That was really good.
So we've been watching through that 70s show, and we got to the fondue party episode. And we were talking about that.
Like Kitty is like the goat of that show.
She's hilarious. I love her.
She's like, I don't know why they don't call it fondue because it is fun.
Yeah. But what about the oil? Can you? No,
Bob. That is a fondant.
Don't touch the hot oil.
Who knew you couldn't put your hand in the hot oil?
It's very funny.
Yeah, I'm really thankful that you liked that show because I liked it growing up. In my teenage years because it came out around the time that I was in like little high school, going into college.
Yeah, it was right around that time. Of course, we watched That's 90s show.
Yes, which was the kind of the reboot on Netflix, which hopefully season 2 will be coming. I think it's going to be.
I hope so. It was really good. I enjoyed it. It definitely kept the same feeling, I guess, as the original show now that we're going through and watching it. So it's been good.
Yeah, well, we got a lot of seasons to go through, but
yes,
the thing I appreciate about the first season of the 70s show is it doesn't feel like, cringy like some first seasons are until they actually get good in the second and third one.
Yeah, that's true. This one was good right out of the bat. What is cringy though are those transitions.
Yes. So
Mm,
those go away a little bit. It's
they learned.
the
Don't do that.
yeah, the little flower. They don't use that
Yeah.
as much anymore in the second season.
Mm.
So Rebecca, getting on to our show for today that we'll be discussing. What will we be talking about?
Today we are going to be talking about my love story.
Yes. Now we had seen this before, so this is actually our second round of watching it,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. It's so wholesome.
It
It's
is.
got great characters. They're all supportive of one another. But I don't want to talk too much about it until Rebecca gives us our little synopsis.
Yes. So I actually did my makeup today in honor of my love story, because our two main characters meet when it's the beginning of school, which in Japan is in April, which is when the cherry blossoms bloom. So I put some cherry blossoms on my cheek. Um, anyway, that's just a fun thing. So the reason I say that is because from this angle, it just kind of looks like black spots. And I didn't want people to be like, what? Do you have something on your face?
Yeah.
I do. It was purposeful, okay? But so our synopsis. So we have two best friends, Sunakawa and Takeo. And they have been best friends for like 10 years and are pretty different. Tsunakawa is like the cool, exciting one, who like doesn't give anybody any reason to really like them, but girls flock to him. And then
They do.
right? And then Takeo is this big, huge, burly, strong guy. And he likes all of these girls, but they like Suna. And he um gets really heartbroken. He goes through a long period of waiting in his life until he meets, and I forget her name. What's her name?
Yamato.
Yamato. I forgot. I don't even remember her first name. But anyway, Miss Yamato. We'll call her that. Rinko.
Rinko, yeah.
Rinko. Yes. Rinko Yamato. So he meets her. She goes to an all-girls school, which is different than the school that he and Suna, Takeo and Suna go to.
Yeah, it's co-ed for the one that they go to.
Mm-hmm. And anyway, they meet and they end up falling in love, and it takes them a while to get there, but they finally confess and they start dating, and it's their cute little love story. So there's the very broad synopsis of my love story.
So there were a lot of things to pull out from this series. So we have a few that we'll go over. I want to talk about Takeo as a character, though. He is very kind, very sweet, but he's also very over the top.
Very.
But he's also like kind of like deep in a way where he has those like inner monologue thoughts throughout the series. I really like him as like the main character. And then we have the supporting character is Sunakawa. Sunakawa, honestly, the GOAT in this whole series because he's supportive. He's kind of like nonchalant at times, very monotone. But I mean,
very monotone.
He looks out for his friend.
Yeah, he's solid. He's a solid friend. He really looks out for Takeo. It's
the scene is set where Takeo is getting in a monologue about this tale between the red and the blue ogre.
Oh yeah.
And it's about this red ogre who wants to be friends with the villagers, but you know, they don't accept him and they don't want to be friends with him. The blue ogre then comes in and say, "Hey, tell you what, I'm gonna go over and destroy the village. You come and, you know, kind of like, you know, rough me up a bit, you know, and I'll run away and then they'll like you." And that's kind of cements and is allegory for Sunakawa's and Take's relationship. Because throughout the series, Sunakawa has always, you know, been a ladies' man. He's never reciprocated. but he's always attracted all the nice girls and everything. He's never ever once pursued a relationship with the ones that want to pursue him, and that's because they've been talking bad about his boy behind his back.
Yeah, that was such a great revelation when we realized that that's why Suna had been turning all of those girls down. Not because he didn't like girls or because he was really picky or anything like that, but he didn't like mean girls who badmouthed his best friend behind his back. I was just like, oh, what a good friend.
And I think this kind of really brings us in before we get to Rinko Yamato about the whole thing of unconditional love. I think between two men it's called what we call a little bit of the romance, where it's a heterosexual type of relationship and they look out for each other.
Talking about a bromance?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I did not hear that. I heard just a romance.
No, yeah. So a romance and a very close a very close friendship as well. Just because Tsunokawa is there for him, like no matter how crazy Takeo gets, he's like, "Hey, calm down. Gonna help you out with this. It's gonna be fine. Don't overreact." And one of the best scripture references we all use, I think, when we talk about conditional love is 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 7. And that guy, I believe you had that pulled up.
I do, actually. So this is very typical verses that you've heard quite often in like wedding ceremonies and things like that.
Even if you're not in the Christian faith or what, you've heard this at some point.
Oh yeah. I think it's important after we read it to talk about what's actually going on in this situation. But the verses are, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things.
And what's kind of set the stage for us with what the kind of like the story behind that verse, kind of the overall meaning. I mean, it's pretty point blank, but kind of give us a bit more context.
Yeah, so for a bit more context here, Paul is writing to the Corinthian church in this letter. This is his first letter to the Corinthian church. And in it, he is addressing what's going on in Corinth. I view what's going on in Corinth like what hyper-charismatics are today. They are putting so much emphasis on the spirit and spiritual gifts, and that like speaking in tongues is a sign that you are filled with the spirit and you are following God. And if you
been there, done
aren't,
that.
right? And if you aren't doing that,
heard that really, yeah.
then you're not really a Christian yet. Something is wrong. Like you haven't had your second filling.
It's your fault.
The Holy Spirit. It does end up being that way for a lot of churches. But that's what was going on. We see these examples here now in today's world, but this is what was going on in Corinth. And so Paul is writing this big long letter explaining lots of different things. But when he gets to what we know as chapter 13, he starts to say, like, speaking in tongues is great. That is absolutely a gift of the Spirit. The Spirit gives whatever gifts he wants to give whenever he wants it. But more than tongues, Paul says, I would rather you all prophesy, because it's encouraging. Everybody needs encouragement. Everybody needs to be lifted up, particularly in the Christian church. Like that is what we're called to do as a body, to be in community and lift each other up. But he expands on this idea of the supernatural. And, I heard someone say once, oh my gosh, what is her name? Melissa Daughtry. I
Oh,
believe.
Dottery.
Dottery,
Yeah.
yeah. On YouTube. She's fantastic. Anyway, she said at one point, she was like, people who are obsessed with the supernatural is like it's more than obsession, it's a lust for the supernatural. And I thought, wow, what a perfect phrase. I absolutely understand that and where she's coming from. So that's what was going on in Corinth. So in the verses 1 through 3 leading up to the verses we just read, it says, "If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have prophetic powers and understanding, all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing." So, what Paul is saying after talking all about these spiritual gifts is like, listen, you can have all of these things, you can do all the right things, but if it's not being done in love, in the spirit of love, then it's worthless. It's truly worthless is what he's saying. When he talks about, I'm just a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal, it's like you're just making noise to make noise to seem important, but it's not really being effective. And that's when he goes into his long explanation. Like, if you've got love, if you're operating in love, this is what love looks like. And that's what he's going through.
And this is why Jesus emphasizes that the greatest of all the commandments is love. Love thy neighbor as yourself. And I think we all forget that most just foundational commandment. And it's
Well, and the first one is love the Lord your God
yes,
with all
right,
your heart, all your mind, and all
right,
your soul. And the second greatest of these is to
yes,
love your neighbor as yourself.
right.
And think it's in Hebrews. I could be wrong, or John, one of those. They're both very poetic, where it talks about God being love and light, and that is how God is described, as love and light. So, like, God is the essence of God is love and light, and so we have to operate in both, in love and light.
Speak and truth and love is also, I've heard it put that way as well.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see Takeo's character, he is patient, he is kind, he's or the other attributes.
There were a lot of them. Patient, kind, doesn't envy, doesn't boast, it's not arrogant or rude, doesn't insist on its own way, it's not irritable or resentful, doesn't rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in truth.
Well, Takeo,
Taki is all of those
he
things.
ticks all the boxes.
Yeah. Except for Jesus.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Meaning having Jesus. But his character absolutely expresses all of those things.
But none of you can have him because he's fictional and he belongs to Rinko.
That's right.
When he meets Rinko, though, it's on the train, and a guy is filling her up basically, and he just says that he's like, "Hey, is there something wrong with your hand, buddy?"
He fights for her.
Yeah,
In a way, it's almost like how Jesus fights for us.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing something wrong happening. Sin came into the world and was trying to grope us.
Oh gosh, I mean,
God was like, "No."
I know. I never heard it that way. That's yeah.
Just thought of that.
Good analogy. Hey,
Inspiration from the Holy Spirit.
There you go.
About sin groping us.
So don't let the devil grope you.
Oh no.
Main takeaway from the episode. Oh gosh. I love Rinko's character. She's
great.
so sweet, so wholesome, cute, and the girl, and she's a baker. And Takio is all about those sweets. She's you navies.
He's so funny. Even when she messes up and puts salt in there, he's like, oh, it's a salty sweet thing. And he just keeps eating. So funny.
So, as a little bit of an aside, I didn't realize this till our second time around.
Mm-hmm.
The voice actor for Takio is the same voice actor that did Nagisa's dad in Clanad.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they put a little bit of that in there, especially about the eating even as after it's messed up, especially about Sanai's bread.
My homemade pastries. How could you? They're just excess baggage at the Furukawa bakery, aren't they?
I love it, baby! I'm coming!
But yeah, so they meet, and this is kind of a slow burn for their relationship because there's some miscommunication going on Takio's side because he's never got the girls. Anything that's happened concerning girls, it's always been Tsunekawa.
Yeah, exactly. It's always been him. He's never been the one that's been chosen. And so he decides that he can't fathom that Rinko would like him. He was like, well, it's got to be Tsunekawa because everybody loves Tsunekawa. I love Tsunekawa. He's great. And so he selflessly puts aside his own feelings and wants to support their relationship. And it's really beautiful that he's able to do this. He loves his friend so much and he likes this girl so much that he's willing to do that.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us into our second point, which you already alluded to, which is Takio's selflessness. He is putting his friends before himself. That's just his nature. He's like always done that. And we see flashbacks between Tsunekawa and Takio, and he's always been there, just to like cheer Tsunekawa up, make him laugh, anything. And he also puts that into practice when he finally has a relationship with Rinko, putting her first, doing anything that she wants to do, because he's just that selfless of a person. He cares more about the happiness and well-being of others than of himself. And that is a great character trait.
Yeah.
Great character trait.
Yeah, I think really all three of them do this for each other. Rinko is really selfless and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Takeo is, and Suna is, like all of them do this. I think it's such a beautiful picture of community because and marriage, honestly,
Right.
because when we are all sacrificing for each other, all of our needs get met. And that's pretty true. I mean, that's true in all relationships. It's a give and take, and as we're giving out, the other person is also giving, and that fulfills all needs. And I think that's really, really important. And I think that's how the body of Christ is meant to work.
Absolutely. And while we're on the topic of selflessness, one of the scripture references I had for this was Philippians 2, 3 through 4. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. That is, if you were to describe my love story in a Bible verse, that is this one.
Yeah,
Hands
I think
down.
so. Yeah, you know what's funny about that verse? My mom used to tell this story. She learned this verse in the old King James version, and she would tell this story as growing up that as she was being forced to wash dishes when her sister had cheerleading practice, she would wash those dishes and she'd be like, let nothing be done through strife for vainglory. And she would quote the verse like, so angry.
She was trying to act in love.
Yeah, trying. Not really sure that actually did the trick. I mean, she memorized that verse, so that's good. But I thought that was kind of a funny story. But you're exactly right, Josh. I do think that verse is so applicable to this show.
When Rinko and Takio start their relationship, Takio is pretty dense. Like,
Very dense.
there's even an episode called "I'm Dense," and he gets like a text from her, so at least he's on the texting game, and he goes through and just trying to like understand like what she wants, and there's also this miscommunication between the two of them where he says, I don't ever want to lay a hand on you, I don't ever want to hurt you.
Yeah, it's because she looked like she was scared or something, or nervous.
Right.
Well, what he thought was scared was her being nervous.
Yes.
And so he's like, "Oh, I get it. I promise I'll never lay a finger on you." And she's like, "Oh, okay. Thank you."
Yeah. And she tries to bring it up that she's scared to even bring it up because that's not, what she wanted or what she meant.
When they talk later, Takeo is like, they're like, "What do you love most about her?" "Oh, she's just so pure-hearted." And she's like, "No, I'm not." On the inside, she's like, "I'm not pure-hearted, okay?" Which I get it. And that was in episode 5. I actually made a note about that because she keeps being embarrassed when everybody keeps praising her for being so nice and so understanding and so whatever, like all of these things. And I understand her embarrassment because I feel that way too. There's a lot of people, particularly at work, there's a couple of people who are just like, "Oh my gosh, you're just so nice. Like, you make me feel bad for thinking something wrong." And I'm like, I'm sorry. I just try to bring light to new situations. But hearing over and over, "You're just so nice. You're so nice."
Yeah.
And on the inside, I'm like, "No, I'm not. Okay." I'm not all the time. I know myself and I'm not nice all the time. I can be quite mean as well in my head, not only to myself, but in how I view other people at times. And I don't know, it's pretty embarrassing to me anyway, when people continue to say that, but I don't know. I get it. I get why she was so embarrassed.
Yeah, you've brought that up like a couple times, like,
Have I?
just between you and I. It's
Oh.
like, I'm mean. It's like, no, you're not. It's like, yes, I am.
Well, it's like, I don't know. I guess it's a lot to live up to. Rinko has a lot to live up to when you feel like you have to be nice all the
Right.
time. And when and the Bible brings it up too, of like, love is patient, love is kind, love is understanding. It doesn't seek, like wrongdoing and all of this. And then sometimes it's human nature that comes out. And I don't know. I also don't want to disappoint anyone,
Yeah, well, we all had that kind of the people pleaser mentality. So, oh, well, they like this, then I have to do this way all the time. Can't let anybody down. And then you just put yourself on a pedestal. And then when you do fall short or fail at that's just downward spiral.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They communicate about it.
They do.
Eventually.
Yes.
And they're not stuck in this crazy loop of like, "What's wrong? I need to know."
And Takio finally feels that he's gotten away from, being judged or being talked about behind his back because of his appearance or his stature. The first time that Rinko's friends meet him, because they hadn't seen what he looks like, hadn't seen a picture or whatever, it's like, "Oh, which one's your boyfriend?" It's like, "Oh, he's right there." It's like, "Oh, oh, okay." And they,
Yeah.
yeah, and she gets really upset because they start talking about him to her. It's like, well, I mean, a lot of other guys, why that guy?
And they didn't really get to know him.
Yeah,
That's the
they
thing.
didn't even give him a chance.
It's only until he goes out of his way, again, sacrificial love, to save them from the fire.
Yeah, that happens over in the restaurant.
Right, yeah. All of a sudden, they're like, okay, well, he's not so bad, actually. I get the appeal.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys and you can't have them. It's like, don't worry, we don't.
Yeah.
That kind of brings us into our third kind of like theme, which we've kind of touched on a little bit, which is friendship and loyalty. We have this dynamic trio, Tsunakawa, Rinko, and Takio. Even though Tsunakawa kind of like exits out because he wants to respect the relationship between Takio and Rinko, because they need alone time, and by doing that, Takio becomes concerned. There's a episode where Tsunakawa is kind of like distant because he doesn't want to let Takio know about his personal family business that's going on.
Which is sad. Like, he should know.
Yeah, they've been
he should know that
best
they
friends
can
for 10 years.
support each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why. Did we ever I can't remember. Did we ever find out why he didn't want Takeo to know? Because he didn't want him to worry.
Right. And he didn't want him to like mess up his plans. And Tsunakawa is also being kind of selfless and very loyal in this way. It's like, no, I don't want you to worry about it. I don't want you to I don't want anything to be messed up because of me with your first girlfriend.
Yeah.
So it's just, it warms my heart every time I think about this show.
Yeah.
Going on with friendship and loyalty brings me back to Proverbs 17:17. Proverbs and Psalms, if you're ever looking for encouragement, I highly recommend these books in the Bible. Psalm 17.
They are wisdom.
Yes, they are.
The wisdom books. Conventional wisdom, I think.
Yes. So Proverbs 17:17. A friend is always loyal, and a brother is born to help in times of need. This also partly captures Tsunakawa's and Takio's relationship. Because as I said, they've been friends for 10 years. They're living next door. Their moms are friends. It kind of makes me envious that I wanted a friendship like that growing up. But they have an interesting dynamic. Yeah, they can bug each other sometimes, but they're always looking out for one another. One of the best scenes and one of the best reactions we get from Tsunakawa is when Takeo learns that Rinko wants to kiss.
Oh gosh.
And it's like, all right, I got a favorite S. I need you to kiss me. It's like, what? It's like
disbelief.
Just use the pillow. It's like, it's not the same.
Poor guy. He's like brings out the cellophane.
Yeah, so they're like
traps him in a corner. He's like, I don't want this. No.
Oh my god.
True friend.
True friend. Yeah, we don't see it on screen, but we can kind of assume that Takio got his way.
Consent is important.
Yes.
Even with friends.
Even with friends. And those of the same sex that you want to try to practice your first kiss on. I don't recommend that. But again, this is fictional.
I mean, that's part of the point of like your first love, right?
Yeah.
First time you kiss is probably going to be bad.
Yeah. You just need to
learn. You learn together.
Well, Takio wants to, make it third. Again, it's gonna be awkward. It's gonna be messy. It
just is.
Yeah. No, nobody ever has had a first kiss. I'm like, man, that was the best kiss ever. That was well, prior to then, it is the best kiss ever because it's the only one they had. This is your typical shoujo, shonen, I forget, anime. It reminds me a lot of like classic, like 90s, early 2000s. I think around 2000s when this came out. Type of like romance anime where the girls all swoon over the guy, and it's just very cliche type of like tropes, but doesn't mean we don't enjoy them any less. So to kind of recap, main themes for this episode when talking about my love story is the unconditional love. And main key verse there was 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Then we had our main redemptive analogy, which was talking of selflessness, presented in Philippians 2, 3 through 4. And then friendship and loyalty, Proverbs 17, 17. So we really would encourage you to watch this show. I think it's only like 12 episodes. It's not that long.
Yeah, I think it's pretty short.
Yeah. So you could binge it in a weekend pretty easily. But in addition to watching the show, if you choose to do so, during this season of love, this holiday, it's not just about cards. It's not just about flowers. It's about showing love, giving love. If you have a spouse, making that important time to show your devotion and your love towards your spouse as well, or your girlfriend or whoever you have a relationship with. Think on, especially 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7, what attributes from that verse do you show? Are you kind? Are you selfless? Are you boastful? You don't have to be 100%. Nobody can be 100% except for Jesus, basically. With what we said beforehand, speaking truth, speaking light, that's what we want to do each week. And to give you something to think about, even if you're not of a particular religious persuasion, if you're not Christian, anything, we're not here to shove that down your throat. We're just here to love you. Any closing remarks?
Well, I would say that it is not just about showing love to a romantic partner. It's also about showing love to your family and to friends and to people you go to church with and work with. And how are you being Jesus to them? And I found the best way to show love to those people is, one, share your experience. Um, that's how you share the gospel. What does Jesus mean to you? But then also doing acts of service and giving words of kindness and those types of things. Those all say love, that speaks love. And, I think it's important to just incorporate that into our daily lives.
It also reminds me of kind of like, love languages, because everybody has like 2 or 3 love languages. I know Rebecca, yours is like touch and words of affirmation, correct?
Yep, both of those.
Yeah. And mine is things. Just give me things. I'm materialistic. I'm joking.
Oh, and even if you're going off of those like love languages, gifts is not being about materialistic. It's more about when you receive a gift, it's like, wow, they thought so much about me that they
Yeah.
gave me a thing to represent that they were thinking about me. That's more of what it's about. It's not necessarily about the thing itself.
Right.
I know you were just poking fun, but I thought I would clarify.
Well, we want to wish all of you a very happy Valentine's Day. Go out, show love, give love, be love. Until next time, keep those halos shiny and stay holy, my friends.